Hello, thank you for joining with me. We are reading with the Course Companions. We are in Chapter 20, The Vision of Your Brother, Section 3, The Insanity of Adjustment. If you'll please close your eyes and join me in prayer. Dear Father, please enable me to set aside everything I think I know about everything, God, especially this reading. Please allow me an open mind and a new experience. Thank you, God. Amen. The belief in sin is an adjustment, and an adjustment is a change, a shift in perception, or a belief that what was so before has been made different. And we'll go ahead and read footnote 9. In psychology, adjustment is the process whereby humans reach a harmonious relationship between their needs and their environment by modifying themselves, the environment, or both, so that now they correspond to each other. To be well-adjusted in this sense is to be considered mentally healthy. This section, however, is highly critical of the concept, saying adjustments of any kind are of the ego. It teaches that there was a perfect harmony between ourselves and our native environment of truth. We then, however, distorted ourselves, forming a concept of ourselves as a murderer. And then we projected this concept onto our real environment, thus conjuring up a false world that constantly pursues us for our supposed crimes. We now take this false self and false world, which are set against each other, and try to adjust them to each other to bring them into harmony. An example of this is romantic partners adjusting to each other to achieve harmony in a relationship. Yet it is the ego that is guiding these adjustments, not to bring about harmony, but to further obscure the natural union that is already there, waiting to be uncovered. Every adjustment is therefore a distortion and calls upon defenses to uphold it against reality. Knowledge requires no adjustment and, in fact, is lost if any shift or change is undertaken. For this reduces it at once to mere perception, a way of looking in which certainty is lost and doubt has entered. To this impaired condition are adjustments necessary because they are not true. Who need adjust to truth which calls upon only what he is to understand? Adjustments of any kind are of the ego, for it is the ego's fixed belief that all relationships depend upon adjustments to make of them what it would have them be. Direct relationships in which there are no interferences are always seen as dangerous. The ego is the self-appointed mediator of all relationships, making whatever adjustments it deems necessary and interposing them between those who would meet to keep them separate and prevent their union. It is this studied interference which makes it difficult to recognize your holy relationship for what it is. The holy do not interfere with truth. They are not afraid of it, for it is within it that they recognize their holiness and rejoiced at what they saw. They looked on it directly without attempting to adjust themselves to it or it to them. And so they saw that it was in them, not deciding first where they would have it be. Their looking merely asked a question, and it was what they saw that answered. You make the world and then adjust to it and it to you, nor is there any difference between yourself and it in your perception, which made them both. A simple question yet remains and needs an answer. Do you like what you have made, a world of murder and attack, through which you thread your timid way through constant dangers, alone and frightened, hoping at most that death will wait a little longer before it overtakes you and you disappear. You made this up. It is a picture of what you think you are, of how you see yourself. A murderer is frightened, and those who kill fear death. All these are but the fearful thoughts of those who would adjust themselves to a world made fearful by their adjustments. And they look out in sorrow from what is sad within and see the sadness there. Have you wondered what the world is really like? How it would look through happy eyes? The world you see is but a judgment on yourself. It is not there at all. But judgment lays a sentence on it, justifies it, and makes it real. Such is the world you see, a judgment on yourself and made by you. This sickly picture of yourself is carefully preserved by the ego, whose image it is and which it loves, and placed outside you in the world. And to this world must you adjust, as long as you believe this picture is outside and has you at its mercy. This world is merciless, and were it outside you, you should indeed be fearful. But it is you who made it merciless. And now, if mercilessness seems to look back at you, it can be corrected. Who in a holy relationship can long remain unholy? The world the holy see is one with them, just as the world the ego looks upon is like itself. The world the holy see is beautiful because they see their innocence in it. They did not tell it what it was. They did not make adjustments to fit their orders. They gently questioned it and whispered, "What are you?" And he who watches over all perception answered, "Take not the judgment of the world as answer to the question, 'What am I?' The world believes in sin, but the belief that made it as you see it is not outside you. Seek not to make the Son of God adjust to his insanity. There is a stranger in him who wandered carelessly into the home of truth and who will wander off. He came without a purpose, but he will not remain before the shining light the Holy Spirit offered and you accepted. For there the stranger is made homeless, and you are welcome. Ask not this transient stranger, 'Who am I?' He is the only thing in all the universe that does not know. Yet it is he you asked, and it is to his answer you would adjust. This one, wild thought, fierce in its arrogance, and yet so tiny and so meaningless, it slips unnoticed through the universe of truth, becomes your guide. To it you turn to ask the meaning of the universe, and of the one blind thing in all the seeing universe you ask, 'How shall I look upon the Son of God?' Does one ask judgment of what is totally bereft of judgment? And if you have, would you believe the answer and adjust to it as if it were the truth? The world you look on is the answer that it gave you, and you have given it power to adjust the world to make its answer true. You asked this puff of madness for the meaning of your unholy relationship and adjusted it according to its insane answer. How happy did it make you? Did you meet with joy to bless the Son of God and give him thanks for all the happiness he held out to you? Did you recognize each other as the eternal gift of God to you? Did you see the holiness that shone in both of you to bless the other? That is the purpose of your holy relationship. Ask not the means of its attainment of the one thing that still would have it be unholy. Give it no power to adjust the means and end. Prisoners bound with heavy chains for years, starved and emaciated, weak and exhausted, and with eyes so long cast down in darkness they remember not the light, do not leap up in joy the instant they are made free. It takes a while for them to understand what freedom is. You groped but feebly in the dust and found each other's hand, uncertain whether to let go or to take hold on life so long forgotten. Strengthen your hold and raise up your eyes onto your strong companion, in whom the meaning of your freedom lies. He seemed to be crucified beside you, and yet his holiness remained untouched and perfect, and with him beside you, shall you this day enter with him into paradise and know the peace of God. Footnote 10, Luke 23:39 through 43. One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him and said, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong." And he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And he said to them, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." The above passage asks us to be the second criminal and to see our brother as Jesus. Such is my will for both of you, and for each of you for one another and for himself. Here there is only holiness and joining without limit. For what is heaven but union, direct and perfect, and without the veil of fear upon it? Here are we one, looking with perfect gentleness upon each other and on ourselves. Here all thought of any separation between us becomes impossible. You who were prisoners in separation are now made free in paradise. And here would I unite with you, my friends, my brothers, and myself. Your gift unto each other has given me the certainty our union will be soon. Share then this faith with me, who know that it is justified. There is no fear in perfect love because it knows no sin. Footnote 11, 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. And it must look on others as on itself. Looking with charity within, what can it fear without? The innocent see safety, and the pure see God within his Son. Footnote 12, Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. In the above reference, the pure see God within their brothers. And look unto the Son to lead them to the Father. And where else would they go but where they will to be? Each of you now will lead the other to the Father, as surely as God created his Son holy and kept him so. In your brother is the light of God's eternal promise of your immortality. See him as sinless, and there can be no fear in you. And now we will read the commentary by Robert Perry, day 247, section 3, The Insanity of Adjustment. This section makes one think long and hard about our love affair with adjustment. It seems to be our job in life to make successful adjustments in ourselves and in our environment. Being well adjusted appears to be the epitome of mental health. Google defines well-adjusted as mentally and emotionally stable. Who doesn't want to be that? Jesus, however, tells us a very different story. We started out in a state where everything was already perfect, and so no adjustments were necessary. And yet, for some reason, we decided to adjust perfection. We pulled away and thus apparently ripped the fabric of paradise. Out of this process was born the ego, which we immediately hired as our guide. We asked the ego what we are, to which it answered with its harsh judgment of us. How could we resist this judgment? After all, when everything is falling apart, an adjuster is a fixer, a hero. But when everything is already perfect, an adjuster is a destroyer, a murderer. So we labeled ourselves a murderer. We then made the world as a reflection of this judgment on ourselves. What kind of world would fit a murderer? It would obviously be one in which everyone was out to make him pay, until he paid with his very life. Having made this giant penal system of a world, we then asked the ego to interpret it for us. It says, "That's reality, the one you deserve." We also asked it who those other people are. It replied, "Watch out for them. They want to hurt you." So now we were stuck with a fundamental discord between us and the world. We were a fish out of water, flapping desperately on the beach, while kids tried to spear us with sticks. What now? At this point, the ego emerged not just as sage interpreter, but also as deft therapist. To close the gap between you and the world, it said, you need to make skillful adjustments on both sides. You need to adjust yourself, stop kicking against the pricks and get with the program. And you need to adjust the world. Maybe you can't change how the world works, but you can bend your immediate environment to your will. You can make sure the people close to you get better at meeting your needs. Our prayer has thus been, may the ego grant me the strength to change myself where the world won't change, courage to change the world where I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Those of us who are good at this project make a success at life. We are the well-adjusted ones. We are the mentally and emotionally stable, and all is well. What never occurs to us is that with each new adjustment, we get further away from that original perfection in which no adjustments were necessary. We get further and further up the beach away from the water. And no matter how you cut it, the beach is a terrifying place. It is not our natural environment, which is why Jesus asks us that appointed question. Do you like what you have made? Do we? How do we get back to the water? First, we need to stop listening to the insane adjuster, the ego. We need to instead adopt the stance of what Jesus calls the holy. The holy don't go around fiddling with all the dials to make sure everything is properly adjusted. They just stand back and ask that the real truth, be revealed to them. They sense that the original sin was trying to adjust reality to suit themselves. All of this has a very concrete application for those of us who have a holy relationship. When we took the hand of another person, we touched the original unity. We laid hold of the pre-adjustment state. In that priceless relationship, then, lies our hope of returning to the water. Rather than letting go of that hand and moving on, we need to do as Jesus says. Strengthen your hold and raise your eyes onto your strong companion, in whom the meaning of your freedom lies. Above all, we need to not let our ego step in as the self-appointed mediator, as the one to fix the problems in the relationship. If we listen to it, it will pile adjustment on top of adjustment until the light of our original joining is completely lost from view. Instead, we need to do as the holy do, step back and let our underlying unity be revealed to us. Thank you so much for joining with me with the Course Companions reading schedule, day 247, section 3, The Insanity of Adjustment. And this was commentary by Robert Perry. I love you. Thank you.